See, it's 6:30, so we'll go ahead and call our work session to order. I'll start off with a review of tonight's agenda and allow counselors to ask any questions that they may have for the agenda to staff before we get going, and then I'll ask Jeff to call the roll. So tonight's agenda, I'll be calling for any proposed changes to tonight's agenda.
Yes, I would like to have it.
Are you sure you don't want to do that during council report?
Let's do council reports at the end. Yeah. I mean, council reports.
Okay,
I do want to make a motion. So.
that's fine. We can do that at a council reports.
All right.
All right, so we'll have proposed changes to tonight's agenda, then public comment. Has anybody signed up online or in person for public comment?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Then under tonight's consent agenda, we have the city council meeting minutes for August 19th, as well as the IGA approval for the Sandy Transit and Clackamas County ODOT funds disbursement. Under presentations, we have the special service contract program for their midterm report. We have a couple of the different organizations in the report from that today. And then we'll round off this evening with our report from the city manager and our committee and council reports. Just a reminder to council, you have an executive session at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. With that, Jeff, will you please call the roll for tonight's work session?
Yes, Mayor. Councilor Maiden.
Present.
Councilor Smallwood.
Here.
Councilor Sheldon.
Here.
Councilor Walker.
Here.
Councilor Exner.
Here.
Councilor Hokinson.
Here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here. All right, thank you for that, Jeff. With that, let's go ahead and get into the work session. We have the library outreach vehicle purchase update.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll just do a brief intro for this and then kick it over to Sarah McIntyre. But you'll likely recall that there was some funding allocated during the budget process to acquire an outreach vehicle for the library. It's been kind of a slow road to getting to the point where we are today due to some additional cost increases and some funding issues with acquiring the vehicle in its entirety. So invited Sarah here tonight to kind of give you an update on where we're at, updated costs, and then discuss the path forward. Excuse me.
All right. So I'm gonna share my screen. I've got a presentation for you here. All right. So we're talking about an outreach vehicle for Sandy and Hoodland Libraries. Thank you for having me here today, Mayor and City Councilors. First we want to, I realized I haven't done this full presentation for you. I went around to all kinds of city groups and did a presentation. So I just wanted to make you aware of what we were looking at for the vehicle. So why an outreach vehicle? Sandy and Hoodland have a larger service area population than a number of linked libraries, but have a lower percentage of users and checkouts because of our significant square mileage. Libraries are once again getting bookmobiles on the road. Lake Oswego, Molalla, and Estacada all currently have bookmobiles. And Lake Oswego is looking at upgrading to the same type of vehicle that we're looking at. So that's exciting.
Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but do we know how they found the footnotes, bookmobiles?
What was that?
Do we have any idea how they acquired the necessary funding for the bookmobiles?
Estacada got a grant from the state library with ARPA funds.
Okay.
Mollalla's city paid for theirs.
Cool.
And then Lake Oswego is still working out their funding process.
Thank you.
Yes. And the idea is to bring library services to where people are. Retirement homes and senior centers, daycares, preschools, schools and parks, and then having a few community stops, maybe in Boring, Orient, Sandy, Rhododendron, Government Camp. Any areas that we see a significant population and people who would use the vehicle. How the outreach vehicle will be utilized for the library, and of course other departments could utilize the vehicle as well. But the library plans on teaching computer classes. So we started teaching basic computer classes at the library in April of 2022 and more classes in October of 2023. And over 150 people have signed up for our computer classes. We also want to make computers and printing services and the internet available out on the road. We, in fiscal year 2024, had 6,473 computer sessions within the libraries and 29,000 total pages printed from those sessions. So a lot of printing needs to happen. And so if we were out in the community, people would be able to print on the outreach vehicle. Also for youth services, we could do story times, we could go to daycares and preschools, and we could do STEM and literacy activities. So we've already talked with the school district, who is very excited about the possibility of us parking our vehicle in their parking lots during the school day to have classes of kids come out to do STEM activities. So we're looking forward to working more with the schools. And then, of course, checking out materials. So the impacts of an outreach vehicle in our community increase kids' early literacy activities, so story times. We've also got 1,000 books before kindergarten program that we have in the library that we could take out with us. So at the daycares, preschools, parents could get their kids signed up for 1,000 books before kindergarten. Increase kids and teens STEM learning activities. We already go to the Vista Apartments and Pioneer Mobile Home Park. And that we would be able to add the schools into that. And then of course, two of our main goals are to increase the number of computer sessions and computer class participants by being out in the community, and increase our number of library card holders, checkouts, and regular library users by being out in the community where people are. So as you know, during the last budget committee meetings, we were awarded $150,000 by the budget committee, which was enough to purchase a vehicle quoted just before the budget process started. And then by the beginning of that next fiscal year, they were no longer making that vehicle. So the prices of the vehicles went up significantly. So even a van, which the Malala Library got, was like $285,000 when they purchased it a few years ago. So, and that's just a van that takes materials out. And we're looking at doing much more. So we've got a spec sheet for the vehicle we're interested in getting. It's called the Farber Elf. And when I was quoted in October of 2023, it was $295,000. And when I just asked for an updated quote, he told me $310,000. So the price goes up significantly the longer we wait. So why the Farber Elf? It's a vehicle. The vehicle is much wider than a van. You can see that it's more like a small bus. And so we can change out the bottom shelves and actually put 5 desks in the vehicle to do our computer classes, or have computers available in the community that people can sit at and use for the hour or so that we'll be at a stop. And do the STEM activities with kids in the schools.
Sarah, before you continue, is this 310,000 not include the finish out, right?
No, this includes everything. This includes the vehicle itself and then the upfitting. So which would be the counters behind the front seats, all of the shelving and desks and carts that we would want to put in the vehicle.
Finished product, okay.
So it's also great because it's a low clearance vehicle. So it's only like a 12-inch step up in general. And then there's a manual ramp that slides out that main door. So it saves a lot of space because a lot of the vehicles have like a pneumatic lift on the back of the vehicle that takes up the whole back of the vehicle. So it would be much easier for people with mobility issues to get in this vehicle, and we would save a lot of space in the vehicle.
And Sarah, doesn't require like a commercial driver's license.
Nope, anybody with a regular driver's license who's trained to drive it can drive it. And I would plan to train almost every single one of my staff members to drive it so that we had people prepared to go out.
Sarah, can what is STEM activity at the school? Like what do the programs look like that you would be doing?
What was that?
What do the programs that you would be doing at the school look like? Like, what does a STEM activity at the school look like?
Science, technology,
I understand what it is. Like,
engineering and mathematics. Okay.
yeah. Like, what would you be doing at the school with this vehicle that
I'm just gonna put it blunt. What do you do that's different than they should be doing at the school with the vehicle?
Well, I mean, a lot of the kids are not up to grade in science, right? And so being able to go out and take a STEM activity with us that the kids put together gets their science mind working and gets them interested in science so that then they study science more and do better in science is the idea behind it. So we would take activities with us. Some of them could be, we have kits at the library that we can use with different groups where you create a robot and things like that. Or we could be doing some of the STEM activities we do are, I keep thinking of ones that are at the community center. So, but we could make like tetrahedron kites or something like that with a group of kids who come through.
Is this done during like school hours or is this separate, like after school
We were
events? What is
talking
it?
about the possibility of choosing a class that they felt like was behind in science, and having them come on the vehicle during school hours for part of their school class.
The reason I'm asking so many questions is that something that we can partnership with the school in order to secure additional funding towards this?
I didn't ask them that question when we met, but it is something to think about, for sure. Any other questions right now?
Are you done?
No.
Oh, let's keep going.
Yep,
then.
okay.
Come back at the end.
So we currently have 12 letters of community support from all different types of groups in the community. The Rotary Club, Catholic Charities, Todos Juntos, Country Cottage Preschool, the D31 Foundation, and a bunch more. A number of our advisory boards within the city wrote letters of support for us. So we're very thankful for all of those groups who wrote letters of support. So if we were to order a vehicle in September next month of 2024, we would receive that vehicle somewhere between March and September of 2026. So I'm just putting that out there so we have an idea of when we would have to apply for some of these grants, because all of the grantees that I talked to said that we needed to apply for the grant in the year we would receive the vehicle. So that's why we're asking for authorization to order the vehicle without having secured all of the funding, with the hopes that we will secure all of the funding before the vehicle.
In 2026, though.
Yeah,
But we don't owe the whole amount up front when we purchase.
no, we can
So,
pay for just the vehicle itself,
Right.
because the upfitting will come much later in the
Mm.
process.
So
And then we can pay the final payment at the end,
But the full 295 or whatever it is.
310.
What is the vehicle just itself?
The vehicle is somewhere between 160 and 175,000, just for the
Oh, okay,
vehicle
that's-
itself. So it's pretty close to the amount that we've already been awarded.
Okay.
And we can absorb that other $10,000 to $25,000 in the existing library budget. We'll figure out how to manage that with the amount that you have in contingency.
Mhm.
So there's no additional financial ask at this point in time. We'd be able to move forward with the purchase.
So it says up to 50,000, but in the staff report, it says of gaining an additional 125,000.
So I've got other grants listed. So this
Okay.
is just the first grant.
Gotcha.
So this is the Library Services and Technology Act, and that's through the State Library of Oregon. We've got the Roundhouse Foundation that I spoke with. That's up to $50,000, though they say they typically award $20,000 per project. The Ford Family Foundation has a Good Neighbor grant, but we can apply for $25,000. And then you've seen the Clackamas County Community Development Block Grant. That's a possibility. They are opening, I think, in 2025 for their new grant cycle. So I don't know when that will, in general, they have an April deadline. So I'm not sure what it will look like, but that's a possibility. And that one only needs a 20% match. So that would be a wonderful grant to get. And then the Oregon Community Foundation. So I've identified a number of grants, and all of them have areas of focus or funding priorities that fit well with the library.
what was can you go to the previous page? The Ford Foundation is only up to 25?
Yes. when I spoke with them, they told me that it would be very rare for us to get the $50,000 grant, which they used to have listed on their page. When I went recently, I didn't even see it listed on their page. I just saw the $25,000 one, but they did tell me that they would fund part of a vehicle for the 25,000.
Okay.
Can you go back to that next page again? There's,
And then, of
So-
course, once we get authorized to order the vehicle, the library will start a community fundraising effort. Possibly with the Friends of the Library. They're still considering how they want to be involved.
sure. So Sarah, I noticed though that it seems like there's only one of these grant opportunities that say that we have to apply.
I haven't actually, I don't know the rules for the Community Development Block Grant.
Okay,
And the Oregon Community Foundation, I haven't spoken to specifically. I'm guessing they will tell me that it needs to be the same year that we receive the vehicle, but I'm not sure.
The CBDG grants can be tricky just because there's a limited amount of money. I mean, with every grant, I guess there's a limited pot of resources, right? But that can be narrowly targeted to specific projects. In some years, we've been a recipient of CDBG funds in the past, and it was very, very specific for, I believe one year was the community center rehab we did in like the 90s. That was a CBDG funded. Kelly's
Park,
done-
I think.
What's that?
Bornstead Park, I think.
I think we got a grant for that as well, through there, but the funding, priorities can change each year. So while it might comply or, with one application period,
Right,
we're not guaranteed that the next application period would fit in that. So it's a good option, but it might not be
right,
the
feasible.
answer to this question for funding.
So financially put, I would, for my own edification and brain, you have half the money you need right now that we already budgeted for. You need another 145 or 150,000, which would be at risk for our next budget, not this budget, next budget. But you have identified sources that you could potentially get full coverage for it and not have anything at risk.
Right,
And we're not pushing any money forward because the money that we have set aside right now in the budget, you need to apply as a down payment on that, right? And the rest isn't due until.
right.
but we could get stuck with a bus.
Well, yeah, the other thing that
Or we risk and take a price hike.
Right,
Sure.
with that too.
Right.
And the thing that I feel pretty strongly about is, the whole purpose of having a district is to spread the costs of providing these services to, government camp to boring. And so for me, the fact that we're just doing our City of Sandy general fund for half of it is, I guess, a nice, gift, and it's important, and I totally support that. But I believe that there are lots of grants out there, and we just need to be very aggressive about going after them and working those relationships and really get that partnership. And I feel pretty confident that we could get the whole, the other half of
Even
it.
just getting pinches from other entities, like the school system is. That's what Sheldon.
Yeah, and that's another opportunity. So I feel pretty strongly that needs to kind of be, the assumption is that we're getting grants for this, so that we're not stuck with the,
So I see your hand up, but as Kathleen, as someone who applies for a lot of grants and has expertise in this area. I mean, you, not me. It threw me off a little bit on the funding, like having to buy it. Like it felt like at least a little bit of experience I have, like people want to push you over the edge, like get you there and kind of feel responsible for it, not know that it's gonna happen like regardless, right? Whether you do it or not. But you feel like this is pretty normal, like this is, and you feel good about it.
well, yeah, because we're just, with the money we have already, we're just buying the vehicle. And then what we're asking for the grants for is to trick it out with all the stuff.
Okay.
I'm sure not
Dawn and then,
bells and whistles.
Dawn and then Carl.
So whenever we purchase a piece of capital, I sound like a broken record to everybody, but I'm interested in the long-term costs. So
Yes.
there's fuel, there's insurance, there's tires, there's maintenance. I don't remember any of that in the budget when we talked about that last year, so this plan, which if it doesn't come to 26 is fine, but that means there would be a set of expenses that would hit in 26 without any corresponding revenue coming in, so that would be an additional
Right.
hit on the general fund.
When I talked to the transit department and the community center, because they both have vehicles, and asked them their fuel costs and their maintenance costs. And it would be under $15,000 a year for the library. So that is something we would have to build into our budget in the future.
Which right now, if we kept revenue flat, would reduce services provided to the library.
Possibly.
And then haven't talked about any additional staffing that you want to put the bus out and keep your other services going. So
Right.
it seems like there's an incomplete budget picture.
Well, with
And,
the,
and obviously, my concern comes when the city starts to pay more than we should for accounting or East County kind of service. So I'm concerned.
right. So staffing wise, the library is in a pretty good position right now to be able to send a person out 3 to 5 days a week with a bookmobile, with an outreach vehicle. We had a number of people retire and replace them with much lower level staff. So we got more staffing than we started with in this biennium. So I think for the beginning, we'll be in good shape. We're planning on having 1 staff member and 1 volunteer at each stop. And we've got a number of volunteers who are already excited and interested to go out. As I talked to the different community groups, a lot of people were like, oh, that sounds like a great opportunity. So I think that will work for us.
And related to this cost, then what's the expected life cycle of such a bus?
I would
Is it a
say,
10-year asset?
I think it's
20 year?
10. A lot of people can stretch it out to 15 or even 18 years. But I would say 10 is the median.
Okay, so we're talking a $30,000 a year asset. That's what we're signing up for. Plus the operational cost.
Right.
An expensive book. Thanks.
Carl. Don has asked a question I was thinking as well. To me, this seems like a fairly easy decision to move forward on because it seems like we're just needing the money that we've already allocated for this particular vehicle, and then tricking it out, as somebody said, was probably the piece about how to get the different fundings and different pieces and groups going together. The big thinking that I have here is that I don't want us to put us into a place where we have to borrow from our reserve monies and that kind of stuff. I really would like to see us get a good, strong budget before we move forward on it. To me, this looks like a fairly reasonable, fairly easy ask. But I do feel like I agree with the budget conditions that we get something strong, maintenance, replacement parts, how that might look in 10 years when we decide we want to move forward on something like this. So those are things I think we need to make sure we think about anyway.
I don't mean to put Don on a position, but was everybody kind of feel like Carl with what he just said, or he's sharing some of the long-term concerns that Don expressed? How are we all feeling?
I kind of agree with both of them. I like, I think there's no reason why we shouldn't move forward. I think we need to put some stopgaps in there from a budget standpoint for our planning. I would like to see an update each time you apply for a grant to keep us on pace so we know where we're going. And then, I'd like to really see the work the library is going to do to get other entities involved and paying for that service, and especially as Don mentioned, the future forward, the cost of that vehicle for us to maintain it, the ability for your department to grow and offer more services and maintain its existing services. How are we going to afford to pay for that? So I think they both have great points. But I think if we wait, the cost of that vehicle will only go up even further. So I think the direction for me, Mayor, is I would vote for moving forward.
What do you think, Rich? I see Lori nodding a lot. What do you think? Do you want to talk? Lori, were you wanting to pipe in here?
No, I don't have anything really to add that anybody else hasn't already said, but I'm in agreement with me.
Yeah, I agree. I do have a lot of concern with to Kathleen's point that this is a district, but it feels like we are bearing the cost of that, whether it be in staff hours to apply for the grants, and definitely if something happens and the grants don't come through. And then again, I would really like to see the partnerships for the longevity of this be fostered, whether that be the school kicking in some money, helping apply for a school grant that gets funneled that way. Something to kind of help that, and also to the county, that they kind of help out a little bit with the Hoodland side and all of that. I feel like this is a lot for us to kind of bear. But I also agree that we have allocated this, and I think we buy the vehicle, and I guess for lack of better terms, we're rolling the dice and hope something comes through and pays for it. Cool.
I would just add that, I support it. The only caveat I would add to it is that, the rest of the money either comes out of the library district funds or hopefully grants.
Right.
But if it doesn't, if we don't get enough grants, then the balance would come out of the library district funds, because those are getting funded by everybody rather than tapping general fund again.
Which would of course reduce services in the library for a period of time.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said using library district funds would mean we would have to reduce services in the library for a
Right, well,
period of time.
But that's the motivation.
Yeah,
right?
right, to get the grants.
Whether it's the Friends of the Library, everybody to make sure that we're
Right.
going after. everything.
Exactly.
Because otherwise you're cutting something else in the city, parks or whatever. So
Right.
it's somebody's ox gets going.
Sarah, would you mind sharing just briefly how much money the Friends of the Sandy Library raised for the computer purchase, just as a point of reference for
Yeah.
the.
So
type of work they can do?
our computers our public computers in the library were very outdated, and we needed a new photocopy machine as a printer, and the Friends of the Library, right before COVID happened, started a fundraising campaign and raised $36,000 very quickly.
So
So,
there's two guys in the back that
Mr. Frick, I saw you had your hand up.
are responsible for
Yeah.
that.
My only comment would be that if you're starting to use money from the library district funds towards the bookmobile, that's a capital expenditure, and I think that we've been through this before with you guys about capital
So one
expenditures.
or
But I
two.
don't think that would be fair to spend it on the bookmobile.
Jack, the rules just changed recently on capital expenditures. So capital expenditures from the county perspective are allowed.
Well,
But it's a good point.
that's a great point. Well, more
Yeah,
conversations.
we won't
Anyway.
get into that.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Real quick, the green and the blue on here, did you put those on there, or did they just came?
No, that's how it
I
looked.
thought you were smiling and.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. It's exciting, something that you and I have been talking about for a long time. I think, my only thing I'd reiterate is I hear about different organizations and groups in town to collaborate with once it's online and here. And I hope we do that, because I think it would be a great resource for our community. So thank you for the presentation. I think you've got your direction, that everyone's gun ho to move ahead, which is great. So.
Great.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll, take a restroom stop, but hopefully by 7:05 to get our meeting moving this evening. Thank you. Call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, welcome everyone to our meeting. Per normal, I'll start off with a review of tonight's agenda and then we'll get into it. I will call for any proposed changes to tonight's agenda. We'll then get to the public comment portion. Have we had anybody either online or here in person submit?
Not today, Mayor.
All right, do we have any responses to last week's public comment?
There were no public
Or
comments
last
last meeting. I had a response
Yep.
for the prior meeting.
All right, thank you. After that, we'll get to the consent agenda, which has our city council meeting minutes from our August 19th. No, it's our consent agenda. Jeez. Wait, I'm confused.
Did I put the wrong date on there, Mayor?
Yeah, we just couldn't have, our minutes aren't gonna be ready for today's meeting on there.
August 5th.
It should say August 5th.
I just mislabeled it, Mayor. It is actually the August 5th.
The August 5th.
Apologies for the
Yeah,
label.
no problem. Minutes, and then we have the IGA approval for Sandy Transit and Clackamas County ODOT funds disbursement. We then have presentations for the special service contract program. I see many of you here today. Thank you for your midterm reports. We then have a report from our city manager, and we'll round off the evening with our committee and council reports. Then, of course, our council, we do have the executive session at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. With that, Jeff, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Counselor Mayton.
Present.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here.
Counselor Sheldon.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Exner.
Here.
Counselor Hokinson.
Here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here. Thank you for that, Jeff. With that, I will call for any proposed changes to tonight's agenda. Hearing none, and the fact that no public comment has been issued either online or in person, we'll move ahead to our consent agenda with our city council meeting minutes from
August 5th is what it should be.
2024. And it has the IGA approval for the Sandy Transit and Clackamas County ODOT funds disbursement. Unless there's discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Counselor Sheldon, a second by Counselor Maiden to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nays. Motion carries. Moving ahead to presentations, we have the presentations for the Special Service Contract Program midterm report. Tyler, do you want to introduce that for us?
Yeah, sure, Mayor. So part of the Special Service Contract Program, or SSCP as we call it internally, is intended to provide grants to local nonprofits for community programs. I think we've loosely sort of requested there to be some sort of update in prior years, but at this last round of funding, the council really expressed their desire to have a more formalized process to provide a recap of the services that were provided, the impact of the community, and so that's what we've got laid out for you this evening. Jeff, I don't know if you just want to call them up one by one.
I gave the mayor the sheet, so
Oh,
he can
perfect.
do it at his discretion.
Okay.
All right.
Then yeah, we have a handful of nonprofits here this evening to go over their accomplishments and answer any questions
You
you
have
have.
to go first. Our Sandy Community Action Center. I will go with Cherie, please.
All right.
Welcome.
Hello.
And it's good to see you. Thank you for everything you do in our community.
Thanks. I haven't done this before, so bear with me. The Sandy Community Action Center would like to extend our thanks to the city for our continued partnership, both in funding and in spirit. As our economy began struggling toward the last half of 23, we have felt the full impact to our operations in both the pantry and the thrift store. We have truly appreciated your support as we work continually providing resources to our community. So our average monthly boxes since the beginning of 2024 was about 290. Monthly average from last year was 204. So this translates to 819 people per month. Average number of new households, 38, previously 22. We are seeing a large number of young families, many of which are single income households. They are reporting that with the rising costs of groceries, gas, rent, etc., they are unable to make ends meet. We are also seeing an increase in our senior population who report the same conditions. A look at this data shows that in the course of 2 years, we have doubled the amount of households we are serving. That's a big increase while serving from the same size pantry. We have partnered with, let's see, we've done several outreach efforts. We have a lunchbox program and also the meal site for the lunchbox program continues to supply our homeless clients, classified as those without access to cooking facilities, with daily food and drinks. We average about 82 individuals per month with this program. So we don't really have necessarily 82 homeless, so they're the same names, but they visit about 82 times per month. Did you have any questions?
Question from the group. My only is I see we are doing marketing materials in both Spanish and English. How's
Yes.
that come across? Has it been successful?
Yes.
Helpful?
Yes. Yeah,
Well, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
we
thanks.
appreciate
It's-
all
It
your
helps us
support.
when we're doing this again and reviewing them to understand the value to just the individual organizations, the community in general. So I know this is hard, but I really appreciate the feedback on what happens with that.
Yeah. It's,
Could you send Jeff a copy of your report so that that can kind of get added into the meeting minutes? if it's
Absolutely.
not already?
Yeah, that'd be.
I don't know if I can make, do you have a way to make copies now, or you just want me to
Jeff
email it?
could- Yeah.
You could just email me a copy after,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right,
Right, thank you.
all right,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Next up, I'll call him Coach Freck, Jack Freck with the Friends of Sandy Library.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
I got the handout. The first thing I'll tell you, I'll let you give it out. First thing I tell you is don't pay attention to the graph on the first page.
Yeah.
And my Kentucky accounting method was confusing to the person who prepared it, so bear with us on that. But basically, I'll let you get it passed around and I'll tell you what it says.
That must have been frustrating, huh?
That's all right, I'm used to it. The first phase we've committed to with University of Oregon was $25,000. We got 16.9 from you. The Friends put in 12.4, so we have a balance going forward of $4,300. And if you go back to the report that I submitted in January of 2024, it talks about that. The other question you ask it is, where is this stuff going to be stored? It's going to be stored at the University of Oregon. And we have some question as to when it's going to be accessed. We hope there'll be access when the first phase is completed. There's some words that we need clarification on access. Does that mean access for us, or does that mean access for the public? And so I'm not quite sure. One of the documents that I have, they talk about categorizing the information. So I'm not sure what that means. So hopefully we'll have some access as early as maybe March of 2025, but I can't swear to it. And they have they're getting involved in other newspapers doing the same thing. And so it's going to take longer to get it completed than we initially anticipated. We were lucky to get 25,000 worth. Now we're going to try and get 6,000 or 7,000 in the ensuing years to get the project finished.
Any questions?
Do you think getting the money from the city and the other donations has helped you more money as you move along, kind of like a seed sort of thing, or does it help you in that respect to get?
Yeah, and I think
additional help?
that whoever's going to make up the shortfall, I mean, a fundraiser, it's difficult to have a fundraiser. My interpretation of a fundraiser, you knock on the door and you say, give me some money. Well, that's not going to work in this, because when you knock on the door, when we did it for the computers, we say we're buying computers and this is what the computers are going to look like. And we raised $36,000. Fundraiser for this is not going to be the same, because what we're trying to tell them, we can't show them.
Yeah.
You can't say, let's go to the library and I'll show you we can. So the conventional fundraiser is not going to work. So as much money as we can get from the city would help overcome the costs as we go farther down, or donation. But the conventional fundraiser is not good. I've been hounding about doing this, but in reality, it's not going to do it.
With the phase one, you've already got all the funding, that 25,000 for that. And so once that becomes online, then that gives people kind of a taste of what.
So that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna say, is
yeah.
I think your selling points, once you got a little bit going, the experience. And getting that individual searching for grandpa so-and-so or aunt so-and-so and seeing what can come up, and the idea that they can even grow that, I think the community is gonna be really excited about it.
I'm just concerned if the words that we're using, the same words that they're using, it means the same thing.
Yeah,
When they say access, does that mean you can go find about your grandfather's store? I'm not sure if you can do it in March of 2025. You may have to wait longer until it gets all categorized. So
Yeah.
Kathleen thinks that's not true, but that's.
Well, my only thing is with the Sandy post here today, we need to make a really big deal out of it, make sure that the community knows, because I think once they know, they're gonna be really excited.
I completely agree, and I think there's some new owners of the Sandy Post out there, and maybe they have some charitable opportunities to help fund some effort like this. So I'd love to see that explored as well.
Well, your report also mentioned that that the archives, that all those original copies of the, there's just like one copy of all these original newspapers, and it's in the Gresham office, and they're going to be transferring all that to the Sandy Historical Society. So that's great that we'll have it here in town, hopefully in a very safe place. But that's our history. I mean,
Mhm.
I just, remember first time I went to go look at those archives, and it was just so fun to kind of go back and look at all these, the teacher strikes and this and that, just to see all and then on your report, you attached a copy of the day after Pearl Harbor or the week after Pearl Harbor on the last pages and the week after the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah, right.
And so that kind of gives you a little taste of what, so it's really gonna be neat to be able to kind of look through history like that, where I found it so important, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Please
it's
keep us
cool.
comprised and thanks for all the work you guys do.
Okay.
Library.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, next up with the D31 Foundation, we have Amy Hardesty to come and tell us about cookies, photos, Santa, all kinds of fun stuff. Senior Center, welcome.
So first of all, thank you guys for the funding. We're a relatively new, small nonprofit. And initially we got about twice as much as we used. We had to come back to you. My dad got really sick and I realized we weren't going to be able to fulfill our obligations. So thank you guys for allowing us to send back half of that money and kind of reestablish. So we did three events, and in total we had 46 community volunteers, and that was a total of 240 combined volunteer hours. We served 239 people during those 3 events, and we raised over $900 for the Sandy Meals on Wheels program. So our Shop with a Cop gift wrapping, this year, I believe it was 33 kids shopped with 9 officers. They each had $150. Behind the scenes, there's lots of volunteers, at the high school, they're wrapping, it's a long day for them and the officers as well. So we were able to, one, help provide materials for that, but also help feed and keep these people energized. So that was really fun. On that same day, we had another group of people at the Sandy Senior Center doing our annual photos and cookies with Santa and Mrs. Claus. And we, our volunteers cooked and bagged over 200 cookies and made little frosting packets so the kids could take them home and decorate their own Christmas cookies. Good Shepherd Community Church partnered with us to provide books, and we served like 100 and I think it was almost 200 cups of cocoa. So there were some sugared children leaving there. And then we provided free photos for the families to take with them to help capture the moments. It was a really awesome opportunity to just engage with the community. We did have a table set up that talked about Meals on Wheels. It explained, what their process is, what the need is, and collected donations there. And then my favorite was our multi-generational meal. It was a really neat thing to see. We had 7 kids in the community come together and prepare a delicious meal. Our goal was to teach them how to cook a homemade meal, give them something tangible that they could take with them, something they could learn. So we cooked over 40 pounds of chicken breasts. We made 3 huge homemade Dutch oven loaves of bread, cooked 32 cups of rice, and roasted 45 cups of vegetables. So these kids worked really hard all day long to prepare food. And 9 pans of brownies. So that night when we got there, the kids helped us set up. Everybody, as the seniors began to show up, each kid would kind of greet a senior, walk them to their table, sit them down. And then after everybody had arrived, the kids sat with the seniors. So they were able to ask questions and engage with people and learn stories, really, really dig in. So that was awesome. The Senior Center that night, we were able to raise $800 for the Meals on Wheels program through their raffle sales. I believe that was the beginning of their, I don't remember what it's called, March for Meals. Is that what it was?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So that was that. If you flip over on the back, it gives our budget report. We were granted $3,440. Of that, we spent $2,349.63. So we had a surplus of $650.37. So I don't expect anybody to answer me today, but our question to the council is, with that surplus, we're happy to refund that money via check, or we can apply it toward our September event where we're having kids come and make fleece tie blankets to donate to hospice. So most importantly, thank you guys. Like I said, as a relatively new nonprofit, that money goes a really long way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the presentation. Thank you for all the work.
How do we address that last one?
I'm sorry, I didn't even
Right.
wait for questions.
Oh, yeah, it was
Sorry.
Yeah, so thank you, Councilor Hoganson. For those of you that didn't hear, he asked, how do we address that question? I think if there is a desire to have that conversation now, we can absolutely have a brief conversation about it. I have a couple off the cuff ideas that I'm happy to share. We'll keep my mouth shut. Or we can do the same subcommittee that approved the SSCP grants, just reconvene that. And talk about a plan for this $650 excess.
Seems like a lot of work for a $650
Yeah.
amount, but
I like the idea of giving it, letting them retain it and using it this fall. Give the event.
What are
See
your
what
other
happens.
ideas?
I think the first one that came to mind was just cutting a check to the Meals on Wheels program and donating that 650. That was already in line with the mission that they were doing with one of their events. Helps offset the cost of meals that the senior center is going to have to pay for those same things, and it's not a huge dollar amount. But that was my first off the cuff. I think of course probably the easiest is just rolling it into the next event.
Sure.
I can't think of the right word that I want to use, but your September event.
Well, if I can, I mean, that one is already mostly funded also, so it would allow us to do more, but I think my opinion is that we go further with the senior center for the meals.
so your preference would be to roll it into the senior meals?
To the senior meals on, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Just whatever. Good by me.
All right.
Thank you.
I mean, can I ask, so you talked about the shop with a cop and 150 times 33 kids is like almost $5,000. So where did that funding come from?
That was from the Shop with a Cop budget. That had nothing to do with, like, when we did National Night Out last year, we raised money for that. And I believe there was already money in that fund as well. So that didn't come from any part of the grant. That was in your budget item already.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right, next up, and we got Tammy Beatty with Sandy Seventh Day Adventist Church. I've been able to walk through this program a couple of times. Wonderful. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you.
So I brought my husband because we co-lead, so he's gonna do a lot of the talking. I'll do some of it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm John Beatty and I'm the chair of the Sandy Seventh-day Adventist Church Board. And happy to be the husband of Tammy Beatty, who is our outreach director. We want to report first on our free dental clinic that we held in October 8th of 2023. We can underestimate how big of a difference having healthy teeth can make in a person's life. One of the things that we've been able to offer last time and in previous clinics, and we're happy to be able to offer it again in our upcoming clinic, is flippers. Flippers are partial dentures that will fill a gap in a person's mouth where they don't have a tooth. And we've had individuals report back to us what a difference it's made in their confidence to be able to smile and not be ashamed. We had one individual report to us that they were able to get a job they had applied for because a better job than the one they had because they had the confidence of having no gap in their smile. So it can make quite a difference. And of course, people are suffering from pain due to dental problems, cavities, those sorts of things. We're glad to be able to help them. So in our October 8th clinic last year, we were able to serve 140 patients. That included 75 x-rays, 61 cleanings, 34 fillings, 34 extractions, 7 crowns, and 8 flippers. And then our next dental clinic will be out on October 6th, just a couple months away, and you're all invited to come and see what happens. It's quite an event to see all the people coming and see them getting services and see their lives change in a matter of hours. And Mayor Sam has been there and seen how it works. We had our vision clinic on May 23rd of this year, and we were able to serve 115 people who received eye exams. 113 of those received prescriptions for corrective lenses or for eyeglasses, and then were able to return a few weeks later and receive their glasses free of charge. So we're able to help them, help quite a few people through that clinic as well. Any questions?
Please.
So this sounds like a lot of very expensive services that you're offering. Where does all the funding come from?
So our funding primarily, I do a lot of work on these clinics. Actually, the vision clinic, I'm not leader of that, but the partnerships that we have with Patterson Dental in Tualatin is just amazing. They provide our toothbrushes, toothpaste, dental floss for our exit gift bags that we give to the patients. They also let us use a crown machine, a CEREC crown machine. And if you've never seen a crown made on site, it's a really awesome thing. This machine, they scan the patient's mouth and it throws together the crown right in the machine. So it's done on site. They don't have to wait. Like sometimes you go to the dentist and you have to come back for your crown. So they provide that. They provide all of the supplies for the crowns. They also provide 2 scanner machines for us so that we have a scanner specifically for the flippers. And so we have a dedicated one for that and a scanner for our crowns. And then the funds that we get from you all is just instrumental for us. I can't even begin to tell you how much we appreciate it. We actually have to pay, this year it's going to be over $3,000 for liability insurance. And
That's for the dental clinic.
that's for the dental clinic, yeah. And then we also have to pay, so Caring Hands Worldwide, we partner with. They bring all of our supplies, all of our chairs, basically anything that the patient's sitting in, all the supplies, all of that. The sterilization machines, the instruments, and they have a fee that we pay that's $3,500. So with the money that you provided us, it covers almost all of that. Not all of it, but it covers a good share of it for each of the clinics. And you have provided that money for 2 dental clinics. So we did one last fall. We're gearing up for the next one in October. And we also were able to do the vision clinic, which we partner with a vision foundation that we pay, I believe it's $3,000 for that as well. And then that provides the glasses and the exams, but it's up to us to get the volunteers like the dentists and the eye doctors and such.
So, and then to add for the vision clinic, there's a foundation that we also had to pay $3,000 for the provision of the, and that pays for the equipment that results in that they do the eye exams with, and then that also provides all the eyeglasses that are dispensed afterwards.
I'm just kind of floored. You just 8 flippers and it's like 8 people's lives transformed. Just, I mean, if you did nothing more than those 8, oh my gosh, right?
That's a quick question for you. On your surveys that you did you keep KPIs for like where the zip codes they came from or age demographic or anything like that during the survey? So I was curious how many were Sandy Citizen or 97055 versus outside the zip code.
Yeah, we do try to track that. We had a lot from the community, not all, but we did have a lot from the community and the wider community. We have people that come from the mountain. We have people that come from Estacada, Boring.
So the county.
Portland, yeah. So, and we have had some come from Portland and Gresham. But yes, we try not to be too intrusive on, like, you know, nowadays people don't want to be asked what they are and how old they are. So basically just demographics, we've been trying to do some of that, yeah. But something I wanted to mention about the flippers. We, last year, we had 2 labs that we partnered with. This year we have 3. And I'm actually maxed out with 19 flippers.
Wow.
So I'm super excited about this year's clinic. We also are adding a children's program. We haven't had a children's program in the past, where now we're going to have a place where the kids can go and like work on crafts and things to keep them busy while dad and mom are getting their teeth done, so.
Do you do this at the church?
We do this at our church. We have about a 3,000 square foot fellowship hall.
Down the street, yeah.
Okay, and so we use the fellowship hall as the main place for all the chairs and such, and then the big foyer that we have is where we they have to go through medical clearance. We have to make sure that their hearts, everything's okay. So we have nurses that check them out there, and then they go through triage, get an x-ray. They're triaged by a doctor, unless they're only coming for cleaning. If they're only coming for cleaning, they don't have to have an x-ray, but.
Is there an opportunity to get some additional funding from the county for this? Since
There
they
used to be.
serving,
Yeah, there used to be, they about, I want to say about 4 years ago, I think it was, we got what they called, I was trying to remember the name of the grant, but they had a grant that they discontinued after COVID.
We should get that going again.
Yeah.
And finally, it's, I know Paul Norman and his wife were very instrumental in kind of working on this, Julie Norman and stuff. And it's just, I always heard all about it, and it's just such a white hat, beautiful, heartwarming project that you guys do. It's just,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really changed people's lives, I'm sure.
Really, I was there so what I did was I did post the pictures that you saw that Tyler, I think it was Tyler that sent.
Sure.
Or who, somebody.
I did, yeah.
Somebody sent out the documents that I sent. And so those are before and after photos of the flippers. I remember one patient in particular, the doctor put her flipper in and she just started weeping.
Oh, gosh.
So that's the times that I start weeping. And I'm like usually hugging them, and they're just telling me how much they appreciate it. So just know that in those moments, you all made that happen. So thank you.
You just helped maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys,
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Really
and I
appreciate it. Yeah.
wanna, Get this to you guys.
Can I ask you one
She's
more
not here.
question?
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you have you ever had any homeless come through your program? Or, I mean, that's not who you're targeting, I know.
Yeah, it's probably it's difficult to tell whether or not somebody is homeless. But if you look at how people is dressed, if they're not homeless, they're probably very close to being homeless.
These guys may be able to hook you up with some county resources. There's a new pot of money for anything targeting homeless populations. So there might be something that we're looking into.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
A great deal.
All right. Moving ahead with our agenda, our report from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it somewhat brief because I've got to save what's left of my voice for this executive session after this. So just a reminder, we have the final Summer Sounds concert this coming Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. The last two have been great. I'm sure we'll have another.
She's a phenom. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but amazing things about the next performer. So looking forward to that. Just a heads up that there's a survey that has gone out to the Deer Point neighbors to get their input on what playground elements they'd like to see in the Deer Point Park. So really trying to keep that project moving forward and getting all that community outreach done. And then last but certainly not least, Chief Husky, Kim Yamashita, Aaron Bayer, myself, primarily those two though, have been working with the school district on the traffic issues that we all know are occurring at the Bell Street and Jewelberry area. We've got one option that I think we can move forward with, or at least give it a go, getting more traffic moving through their parking lot and off the street. So we're going to try that and see how much of an improvement that makes without doing any sort of capital improvements or anything that costs money. We do have some no parking signs on hand as well that we can get installed in the near future along Bell to really make that visible. There's no parking signs currently there. So while it should be clear that there's no parking, it's not explicit. So we'll get that taken care of as well. And then we'll work with the school district to message some of those changes with their, I believe they use Parent Square but use their messaging system. And then chief, as the SROs can communicate to parents that maybe aren't following the rules those first few days or first few weeks of school and try to get people moving in the right direction and keep that traffic flowing. So we're gonna try this, see how this goes. We've got a couple other, ideas that we've bounced around, but we're gonna go with this hopefully easiest, cheapest option first, and then we'll continue to monitor it and see how it improves.
Sure, have some opinions.
Right.
We should be able to tell relatively quickly if this has a meaningful impact on the amount of traffic within that area. And I should say not the amount of traffic, because the same amount of cars are going to be going through there, but the impact to the traffic in that area. And so we can reconvene with the district very quickly once the school year starts and see how it's working and make any modifications we need to make.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Yeah. All right. Done.
I would like to defer to my esteemed colleague from Langen Sense.
Go ahead and let Mr. Councilor Exner start us off this evening.
Okay. Well, I do have an announcement. Some of you may know, some may not, but my wife has had some significant health issues in the last couple of years, and it's taken a turn for the worse lately. And so in regard to that, she's my first priority. So tonight I'm going to submit my resignation for city council because I need to take care of my wife. But I do want to thank all of the people that I've had a chance to interact with. I was trying to count up all the months and years that I've done, and I'm not sure I want to. You don't want to hear an old man talk about how it used to be and what we used to do, but I do remember some of the old days and when we had just 7,000 or 8,000 people, and now we're working on trying to get 15,000 people, and all the issues that seem to be coming towards us now at more rapid fire than they ever used to be when I first started out, both in planning commission and city council. I do want to thank staff. Just it's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to work with such professional people all the way through, current and past. Same thing with the council. I appreciate all of your patience with all my silly questions and my opinions and half jokes and all that kind of stuff. So with that, I need to resign. I think my last date will be this Friday, 23rd. So you have a chance to throw some nasty things at me if you want, or even good things at me if you want in the next few days. But thank you very much for putting my ability to help Sandy out. I think it's almost appropriate to see the reports that we had with the service contracts. It's part of Sandy to be able to see the volunteers, the people that are willing to help and step forward and do so much. Many communities don't have these kind of people, but I really am impressed. I'm not a crier. I don't have the kind of tear ducts some people do when they get emotional and stuff, but if I was ever going to cry, tonight would be it, with a long list of people who have said so many good things about the community and helped so much. I remember I had a crown here a few months ago that cost almost $1,800. And all the crown work that they did, what a great contribution to the community. I can't say too much about those folks. So with that, I'm just going to quit quickly. Thanks for the run, and we'll see you next time. I'm sure I'll be able to come in, give you a bad time as I hear something bad or something I want to comment on. So thank you.
I'm sure in all of our reports, we'll have things we want to say about you and the announcement. I did want to provide staff an opportunity if you guys wanted to lay out maybe a process for fulfilling the vacancy.
Yes.
I think you had something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
There. So did you want to maybe provide us a path forward, and then Councilor Exner can, if there's a motion or anything to be made, we can.
Do you mind walking through those
Sure.
next steps?
Excuse me, Mayor, I think I'll just share my screen here. So, first of all, what does the charter say about vacancies? So what procedurally the council will need to vote to declare the seat vacant. And then the seat is filled by appointment for the remainder of Councilor Exner's term. The procedure for doing so is more closely described in the council rules. So I'm going to flip over to that. And oh shoot, excuse me. Okay, I'm going to jump down here. So in chapter 10 of the council rules, it says upon declaring a vacancy on the city council, the council will fill the vacancy according to the provisions of the charter, adopting a process and procedure for filling the vacancy during a regular meeting. And then it kind of lays out some elements here. So the council rules say that the vacancy needs to be widely advertised and collect applications. There would be a deadline, and then the council would review those applications, you know, in a public forum. All of this is in a public forum. Need to use evaluation criteria that would be adopted at the outset by the council as well. And then there would be public interviews. I know we've done this, was it about 6 years ago, Councilor Ashton? Yeah. So it wouldn't be unfamiliar to everyone. And then the decision to fill the vacancy would be via vote during a regular meeting. So
Jeff, does the seat then after, is that an interim filling until the seat becomes posted for election again?
what the charter says is that, so I'll flip back to the charter. Basically, it would be for the remainder of Councilor Exner's term.
So not the first available election, but until the end of that existing term.
That's correct. That's what the charter says. And so it would be until the end of 2026.
Right. So with that, I guess would like to make my last move and motion that the council set up a process to do the implementation of the charter and the city council rules to be able to identify how and where and finally fill my position for the last 2 years. I move.
Second. That fine, that work for you, Jeff?
What I could do is so I can certainly put together the bones of a process. It's nothing terribly.
Since he's not resigning yet, we can't vacate the position.
Right, that's right.
So all we can do is
So
all
next meeting.
What I would suggest is we could put together a proposed process and bring it to the council at the next meeting, which is the day after Labor Day. The council would then do two things. There would be a vote to declare the seat vacant, number one, and then number two, to adopt the process or amend it as you see fit.
And one of those is the criteria.
Including
and
the
does that go-
evaluation criteria.
Yeah, evaluation, and that goes out with the application,
Mhm,
right?
that's right.
Okay.
There's been a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays. Motion carries. So then at our next meeting, we'll get that process laid out to us for amendment and approval. I'll wait for my turn to say nice things. Councilor Exner.
Are you gonna say nice things?
Very nice things. Yeah, nice things. We'll go ahead and start with Don.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So before I get ulterior, I'll talk about a couple things that have been going on first. We met as a freshwater committee, trying to be more transparent about our meetings because I'm noticing some of the time between our committee meetings and the time we actually talk about it in here started to grow longer and longer. So just know that we met, they're working through it. There's a couple of weird things that will be coming up. One of which is a water management and conservation plan they're going to be bringing forward. It's like a state required thing. It seems like a lot to do about nothing, but just be aware that that's something that they're going to be working on and bringing forward. And then the other, just they're making a lot of progress on that. And we do have a tour coming up here, I think the end of September, to go tour that facility, which should be, I think, an opportunity for all of us to get on the same page as far as where the freshwater drinking supply opportunities are. So for that, we did not talk about SendiNet. I do want to talk about code enforcement. It's hit social media as somebody wasn't happy with a letter they received and went social media, and then it kind of blew up. And so you all know this, but just on the, if anybody is listening and watching out there, I think it's important for our residents to recognize that a unanimous council passed the budget to bring in a new code officer because we wanted to enforce the code. There was a long backlog of complaints and things that hadn't been acted on because we hadn't had resources. So now we have, with that last budget, we have a person doing it. They're working through it. I think there's some misunderstanding that this is a budget revenue, big brother intrusion. And I think people don't understand the possible collaborative nature that we're really seeking for as a council. So I had a neighbor, I'll use him as an example, who had the code enforcement officer reach out to him and said, your trees are in the right of way, you need to cut them back. And he came to me, he's like, Don, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? It's the wrong time of year to cut these kinds of trees. I said, call him and talk to him. They called, they chatted, they arranged on a time. The season got to the right point in time. He trimmed them up. They're perfectly compliant now. No fines. I mean, to me, that's the nature of what we're looking for out of code enforcement, whether it's trash or any other delinquencies, to ideally work with homeowners and landowners to make the necessary changes. So I think that's just a message we need to reinforce with people. If you get a letter, call, talk about it. If you disagree with the judgment, that's what you talk about. I don't think this is out of compliance. Why? You know, maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's very easy to fix it and remedy it. So anyway, that's my big encouragement. If you see something online, feel free to pass that message on to people, you know. And finally, to Carl, it's been my pleasure to sit over here next to Carl, and sometimes we whisper and say things back to each other, primarily because neither one, I don't hear very well. So, but Carl's helped me. Coming on the council as a new guy, not really knowing things, he's been really level setting for me, and I've really appreciated that. We don't always see eye to eye politically, and frankly, I don't see eye to eye with any of you guys politically all the time. So, but I respect everybody on here for the willingness to volunteer, spend those years and the time. I can take a lot of garbage on social media. I'm okay with that. But the one that pains me the most is when people will say things like, you're only in it for yourself or your money or your own ego. And nothing can be further from the truth, because there's no amount of ego that makes it worth coming and doing this kind of work and sitting on those committee meetings and talking about sewage for the last 2 years. That's not what it's about. So, but enough about me, but Carl, thanks. Early on, Carl sent me a text and says, you want to be part of a prayer group? And I won't mention, can I mention?
Sure.
So he and Jeremy were part of a prayer group. Before a council meeting, he'd say a prayer. He says, I'll send you a text and you can be part of it. And it was funny how just a simple suggestion like that reminded me that whatever political battle I thought I might be facing at that meeting, there was a bigger, more important issue. And for that, I will forever be grateful.
Thank you.
So thank you, Carl. And that's it. Okay.
Now I want to just start off. Carl, how many years have you been on council?
Oh, only 14.
Yeah.
Plus a few planning commission.
Right. So that's what I mean, it's been like 20 years. So I kind of think that is just such a huge contribution to the legacy of our town. And your wise counsel and experience has really helped all of us, especially newbies there. I just really appreciate how you look at things. You've got, you can look at things as a resident, you can look at things as a realtor, you can look at things just as a common sense individual, and I really appreciate that. I hope we're able to kind of do some sort of a, recognition thing that I want to be able to say or at least attend. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And I am kind of a teary type, person, so I can be a little verklempt after, but I'm excited to see that you're going to be able to kind of spend more time with your wife, and that's the most important thing that we do. All this is just meaningless if we don't have, if we don't have a family. So that's most important. The library board, we we had a meeting, recently and just, you know, we talked a lot about the library, bookmobile and the, a little bit about the fact that the IGA is getting amended for the capital stuff. There's kind of more discussion with the Woodland Rent, that I think is moving forward more with the staff and, you know, city manager and all, so I'm hopeful that that can, we can make some progress there before. Seems like we've been working on it for so long, so, yeah. The school parking issue, I am, you know, I live on Bluff and, you know, when folks are parked up at the Cedar Ridge Middle School, you know, parked in a arterial street, you know, you can't park on an arterial street for 2 hours and you can't park there for 15 minutes. So I just want to see us sort of like the whole code enforcement, you know, we have these regulations and, you know, if I got a ticket for parking in front of my house for 20 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, then I want to see us just be, you know, there's opportunities for the Cedar Ridge students to be parking down along Hood Street. All the way, you know, there's plenty of parking there all the way to the tennis courts. I want to see that happen, and not allow, you know, have no parking signs along Bluff Road because it backs up all the way to Highway 26. And then, you know, and I'm, you know, also thrilled to see us, you know, focusing on Bell Street too. No parking. There's other options for them to do because it really, I mean, I was out getting the petition signatures and all, and my neighbors were talking about how frustrating it is when they forget about the school pickup stuff and they go that, you know, the Bell 362nd. So we just need to realize that all, you know, I know that's more convenient for the people picking up their kids to just park on an arterial street and wait for their kids, but it's not legal and it really impacts all the residents that live in the Bluff, you know, in Sandy Bluff and along Bluff Road. So speaking of Bluff Road, the Water Bureau project is moving forward and I've been just had conversations with some of the folks there about, they've been hauling tons and tons of rock, hundreds of rock, big, huge gravel trucks with trailers down Bluff Road, hundreds per day. And they, in talking to them, they have intention to be continuing to use our city Bluff Road with no repairs or anything. They're kind of beating the tar out of our road, but they basically are planning to use that for the next 3 years. So that was a big aha, like what? You know, again, we all support the project maybe, but it's just kind of, we need to have some conversations because there were restrictions for the OTA school, the Oregon Trail Academy, and the Kelso School on pickup and drop off times and not hauling past there. The Cedar Ridge Middle School was not included in any of those restrictions. So we need to kind of have a meeting. And I think Tyler's going to set that up. So that'll be good. The code enforcement, there was a lot of conversation about that. And you know, we saw that one house there that was such a issue there on Bluff Road across from the Cedar Ridge Middle School burned up. I can't imagine how difficult it was to fight that fire because there was so much stuff all around the house that you couldn't even get to, you know, get to the close to the building. And we're just so lucky that it wasn't windy and we didn't have the neighbors' houses affected by that. But I would, you know, that was such an example of like a long time problem that just got worse and worse and worse until it was just catastrophic. And I do want to see us moving forward, you know, like this guy's upset that he had weeds in his yard. And yet, you know, places like that are, you know, it's hard to kind of be, have credibility as a city when you have something like that going on and yet somebody's getting, you know, noticed about the, you know, some weeds or whatever. And I'm not saying that, you know, we shouldn't try to do both, but we do need to prioritize and be consistent. And the other thing I would suggest is that when those letters go out, that there's a picture taken of what the offending situation is, just so that, you know, everybody knows what it is. So, yeah. And the last thing I would say is the Sandy Trash Task Force that was cleaning up the homeless camps along Highway 26 and over by the Industrial Way area. Saturday morning did a knockout job. There was about, I think, 10 of us or so, and really cleaned up a lot of the homeless camps there. And they are interested in kind of having some being involved with how we deal with the issue. So I'd like to see us the homeless task force, invite them to the next meeting. They've got some information, I think, and ideas to share with us. So I think that would be really helpful. And, yeah, it was and also I did mention, because we were going to recognize them at one of the meetings. And I guess I kind of asked, why didn't you guys show up for that? And he said, oh, there was a, confusion about the date. I think they just got their wires crossed. So I would like to kind of offer them the opportunity in the future, because they're out there, cleaning up the worst of the worst. I'm just gonna say, when I was helping them, I mean, I've done tons of those, but this time I kept, getting in my husband's truck, because I had the truck, and going, what smells so bad? And finally I realized it was my sweatshirt had some debris on it. And so yeah, they do some really poopy tasks, cleaning all that stuff up. It's not for the faint of heart, and we need to recognize for all their hard work.
Thank you, Kathleen. Wish we would have maybe ended on a happier note.
Yeah, well, yeah. They did great, and I want to recognize them, so let's do that.
Rich.
I want to second everything Kathleen. Yeah, thank you. Carl, man, I'm gonna miss you. I'm not one that has a lot of words, but I've really enjoyed getting to work with you. And even though we don't see eye to eye, I've really enjoyed even the sidebar conversations that we've got to have with players.
Oh, thanks.
I really like your even keel, just mentality. So I'm gonna miss you, but I'm so glad you're getting to spend some time with your family and really put that emphasis where it does.
Appreciate it.
Promise you, I'll make sure to stay up on the weeds. Throw art out there every now and then.
The art committee.
The art, yeah, I'll throw the word art out every now and then just for you. So, thank you so much, Carl, for all you've done over the last almost 20 years. It's a pretty cool legacy to leave behind. So, thanks. All right. Lori.
Carl, I'll have to save my my accolades for another time or an email. I've got hardly any voice left, but thank you very much. And like I said, I'll either address it next meeting or I'll send you an email.
Thank
you. Chris.
I'll start with you, Carl. Being the newest council member, I'll just say thank you. I was on the planning commission for almost 5 years, watching the city council, watching you. And I appreciate your commitment, Sandy, and all the contributions you've made to Sandy, and especially during my time here. I think you've made a lasting impact on Sandy, and it will be seen for many years to come. I want to remind everyone that Hooded Coast is this weekend, so there'll be a lot of bands coming through Friday and Saturday. I have a partner running in it, so it'll be important there. And then I had the Economic Development Committee this week. It was the first one in a while. We have a staff change. They eliminated the development director position, the manager there, and that's mostly because of the
moratorium
financing.
It's because we're not building right now because of the moratorium. Sorry, I was trying to get it out. But I think that the group, we talked about relooking at the strategy, because the strategy was put in place before kind of during, but mostly before the moratorium took effect. But we're going to take a look at it, make sure it's prioritized in the right way. Like, it doesn't make sense to go looking for a hotel right now if you can't build a hotel. So we're going to relook at that in the meetings to come forward. So I think it was a good idea. And then I haven't had a planning commission. I think it's next week. So that's all I got.
Awesome. A lot to report. Just before getting here, I did see the post about the tents and stuff all right there, right on the main drag. Was it are those Hood to Coast people, or are those transient, or
I hadn't seen that.
Okay, there's just some post
right
went
now.
up, bunch of tents right there by the welcome to Sandy sign.
Okay.
I mean, we'll
do some.
They were
research.
really nice tents though, which kind of made me leaning towards the Hood to Coast, but I don't know.
We'll find out and send an email out to council.
Thank you. All right. So Carl, I was blessed with those tear ducts and all those emotions, but I'm trying to recover from all that. I'm working on it. I just would say, I've talked a lot about kind of the Sandy style, the Sandy culture of how council kind of conducts themselves and interacts. And man, you're like, I don't know if you're the architect of that, but you're just a major player in that. And someone that has really just kind of kept our community's eye on the ball, which is what is important to our neighbors and our community. And you know, I think I started my speech, my kickoff speech, when we were talking about you and you had signs for my opponent on each flag lot on each corner. And then we got into the car after the election. You said, let me talk to you what I care about. I care about putting Sandy first, right? And the way you've conducted yourself and how that kind of plays out to everybody else is just something special. A couple of years ago, you were being recruited to run for the state legislature. And I just found myself getting so excited for that. Because I thought if there was even a small chance that your way of doing things and carrying yourself and treating people, working with others could carry into that building, it would do some amazing things for the state and for this community. So highest respect for you. You're going to be greatly missed. I hope you keep coming around and, you know, just yell art and then leave or something, you know. But you've been tremendous. And I promise I'm going to try to do something in my last stint here as mayor cool for you that won't involve naming it wastewater, you know, the wastewater plant or anything like that, you know. You know, like something really nice, you know. But
wastewater.
but you really deserve it. So thank you for everything and spend time with Julie and family and get it right. So
Thank you.
with that, we will close our meeting tonight and stick around for the exec session a little bit afterwards. So